Hey folks, it's Nick Granville. Welcome to my guitar channel. If you hear a bit of whistling going on, there's a bit of a storm going on outside, so not much I can do about that, but that is how the weather goes here sometimes in Wellington, New Zealand. So today I thought I'd talk about how and demonstrate how to get the best out of an overdrive pedal. I think a lot of people struggle with this, particularly with Tubescreamer style pedals like this, right? I'll demonstrate it with the amp down low and then the amp up high, and you'll hear there's a massive difference, right? Because the thing that people forget about with a Tubescreamer circuit, it actually has a clean blend in there. And so if you're hitting an amp that's dead clean, it's really hard, it's a really horrible sound. I'll show you what I mean. So here's my clean tone. I'm just going to add a little bit of reverb in post because there's no reverb on my amp. I've got the amp as low as I can possibly get it. Sounds like a little deluxe, right? Now let's put the Tubescreamer on. I've just set everything to flat. This, by the way, this is an original TS, an old one. Sounds okay, but it's not very inspiring, is it? And the same thing with the OCD. Now the OCD doesn't necessarily have a clean blend in it, but it's quite a harsh sounding pedal if you don't have the amp cooking, and I'll show you what that sounds like. So I think you'll agree, those are kind of uninspiring guitar sounds, right? So now I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to crank the amp up, my little deluxe, to the point where it overdrives, like it's just on the edge of breakup. And then essentially what we're using these pedals to do is to push it over the edge. Okay, so what I've done there is I've turned my amp up to 9. So this is the amp without either pedal on. So on its own, the amp sounds great, right? Like that's really cooking, and that's just the amp kind of pushing, it naturally compresses. Now if I hit that with the TS, that's the thing, isn't it, right? You can hear now it's that clean blend that was in there is now getting distorted because the amp is distorting, right? And so it actually works like it should. Let's do the same thing with the OCD. So as you can see, I'm playing better because it's inspiring, right? It's a sound that's kind of making me go, hell yeah, that's what I want to feel under my fingers. And the same thing applies with a modeler. You don't have to be using an amp. I'm just using an amp in this instance. But if you've got running a modeler and because essentially the pedal thinks it's going into an amp. Right? If you run the modeler like pretty clean and then you hit it with a TS pedal, virtual TS pedal, or virtual or real TS pedal, you get that clean blend thing happens again, right? But you hit it hard with a pedal into an amp that's cooking, a virtual amp or a real amp. I think that's one of the key things to making overdrive pedals really work. Have your amp set up the point of breakup and then push it over with the pedals. The one exception to that I found, and it's one of the reasons it's one of my favorite overdrive pedals, is the Dude pedal by J Rocket. That seems to work even when an amp's down low. Has a nice bit of compression, it doesn't seem to have that clean blend in it, and it just seems to really work. That's probably why that's probably my favorite overdrive pedal. It doesn't, you know, even at lower volumes, it still kind of works okay. Now, of course, it likes being at loud volumes because you get all the dynamics and things. But so what happens if I turn both on? I've said it many times, stacking overdrive pedals is where it's at, right? Because one pedal feeds into the other and kind of creates this feedback thing going on, and I really like doing that. That's why for me it's like I very rarely play with just one overdrive pedal. Usually I want to use two, and that essentially gives me three sounds. I have my cleaner drive, my more heavier drive, and then the way they blend together gives me a third sound, a more higher gain singing kind of lead tone. So that's usually what I'll do, not necessarily with a TS. I'm not a huge fan of the TS pedals, and the main reason is that most of the time I'm using Tweed amps. Both my amps are Tweed amps, so and then if I'm using a virtual amp, usually I try and go for some kind of Tweed Deluxe or Tweed Basement or whatever, like I'd use in the real world. And so therefore, like the mid bump of a Tweed amp plus the mid bump of that is just too much for me. I hope you found this useful. If you have, go and crank your amp up and put a drive pedal into it and see what happens. It's where the secret magic sauce is. But please like and subscribe. That all helps my channel. I post twice a week on here, plus a live stream, plus extra shorts and stuff in between. So pretty active on YouTube, you know. So hit like. That helps a lot, believe it or not. It does. It like pushes it out to YouTube, and YouTube says, this is quality, a quality video that other people will like. And that helps me grow the channel, which is what I'm trying to do here. So thanks so much for being here, and I will see you soon. Cheers.